You also make, tell me how you look at the idea of sort of Western culture as a vehicle or as a reflection of the triumph of the Western model.
Well, I don't know that I exactly look at it that way. I think Western culture is quite unique, and one can trace the emergence of the central elements of Western culture and civilization back 1,000 years. And they have made the West quite different from most other civilizations in terms of our concepts of the rule of law, separation of church and state, rights of the individuals, the pluralistic nature of Western society historically is quite unique, and that makes Western culture very different. And I think it is the reason why 500 years or so ago the West took the initiative in modernizing the world and in conquering a good part of the world in the process. And other civilizations are now trying to catch up, and of course the East Asian civilizations are well on the way there.
And Western modernization.
Well, I think one has to draw a distinction between what is modern and what is Western.
What's the distinction?
Well, all peoples virtually wish to become modern. They want to be wealthy, they want to have modern technology, modern science, all the benefits of the existence of existence in the modern world. But that doesn't necessarily mean they want to import Western culture. In fact, in most of these other societies and civilizations, they very explicitly don't want to. Now, whether they can separate the two all that well is uncertain. They are certainly, however, making great efforts to do so. And of course, we have countries such as Japan, which are thoroughly modern, but I don't think anybody would call Japan Western.
But it has adapted much of the Western culture, and the Western culture is a predominant part of, is a significant part of that the economic base, isn't it?
Well, Japan, I would say Japan is modernized and in the process...
Has accepted...
Sure, it's imported elements of Western culture, but it's hard for me to think of Japan as being Western. And I don't think the Japanese think of Japan as being Western. They recognize the very fundamental differences between their society and culture and way of life and that which exists here in the United States.
Do you think those that look at the power of global capitalism overemphasize its impact in terms of its impact on the world? For example, as you know, Tom Friedman wrote an interesting piece, partly tongue-in-cheek, in which he said there are no two countries which have a McDonald's franchise that have ever fought a war against each other. Well, suggesting the notion, he said tongue-in-cheek, that in fact having a McDonald's franchise represents a certain level of economic development.
Well, it may. Whether it represents a certain level of cultural development is another question.
And having a McDonald's franchise may very well be a source of some antagonism within cultural elements within a nation state.
But I guess I don't think we want to equate Western culture with fatty foods or fizzy drinks or faded pants, and that's what people tend to do. They say, look at all these
or Schwarzenegger movies or whatever.
Exactly, but that's superficial. It doesn't really get to the heart of a society, and when one looks at other civilizations, one has to remember that Chinese civilization has existed for thousands of years, and so is Hindu civilization, and Japanese civilization, and Muslim civilization for 1,300 years. These aren't phenomena that are going to disappear.